The green-eyed Archangels. From where the sun sank, 6-gun coffin lid squeaked as the 6-gun soldiers sat up staring at the dark sky. Their ghost-like skin where American blood flowed. Their dark horses pawing at the earth, bringing death with their payload. They checked their hearts for shards of oak. None there, that was a plus as they stood ready to fly. They climbed grim and sour into their black sky chariots. Frames dark as night, night darker than soot. It looked like a fight. When up from the links, there rose such a clatter, a ruckus of Ralphus and hornety splatter. The Stalkers were up now, they rested by day. They rose up at dusk to slap the night away, until dawn. 6 guns didn't miss, Night Stalkers didn't quit. Rangers led the way. Hit 'em hard, hit 'em again. Valare Optimus. Written by George E. Hand IV. Battle of Editha Dam.
Tonight on the DTD podcast, we have a guy that I've been waiting a long time to talk to. It's Greg Gravy Coker, and he's going to tell us about doing bad things to bad people all over the earth. So let's get into it.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
How about no, you crazy Dutch bastard? What we've got here is failure to communicate.
60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
That's cute. I remember when I had my first beer.
Why so serious?
I am serious, and don't call me sir.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the DTD podcast. Like I told you, we have a great one tonight. He wrote a book, Death Waits in the Dark, 6 Guns.
Don't miss.
That's exactly right. 6 Guns, don't miss. I've been waiting a while to talk to this guy, so let's get right into it. Greg, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you, sir. It's such an honor, and it's an honor to, walk with giants. I mean, Kyle Lamb's been a close friend of mine for many, many years. I worked with Tom Satterley, Brad Thomas. I mean, all those heroes out there, doggone, they're my heroes, and I just love every one of them. So,
well, I tell you
it's
what,
good to be here. Thank you.
They have stories, but I'm telling you what, after reading this book, you have got some stories. You have been there, done that, seen that, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about that I had no idea was going on. But I want to kind of start off the interview in a somber kind of mode. I know that I don't like to start things usually sad, but I understand in talking to you and reading the book that the most important thing I think that you did in this book was to talk about your friend. Not only him being your friend during all those missions, during the military, but your ultimate loss to suicide with him. And I think it's an important thing that we talk about because it happens more often than people think. And we look at these guys, and I've said it before on the show, we look at these warriors, these heroes, and we think that they're robots and it doesn't affect them. And it has not only affected you, but him, and by him with what happened, it has affected you. Now, I want to go from your book and talk about how you describe Leon real quick. You say, yeah, brother, Leon Hansen was the man. What a great guy, Leon. He was, among many other things, a complex sort of fella. Intelligent, charismatic, sterling sense of humor, just a downright scholarly man of letters. He was a sponge for knowledge who read most anything he could get his hands on, and his hands could get on a lot of stuff, so he was perpetually reading. You can tell from hearing this book, hearing your audio that you sent to me, and reading the book itself, how much he meant to you. So I just want to start out with talking about him as a person and as your friend.
Yes, sir. Leon was, he was more than a brother. I mean, we were close friends. We'd met in the 90s, and he was a fire supporter for Delta, and he had a background in the Rangers. He was 275, but we hit it off at the very beginning. I was doing Gunsmoke with those guys when I first met him many years ago, and we became close friends, and I just miss him every day. I really do. Think about him many times. I even think a few times he's come down to talk to me a little bit. But yeah, he was an interesting fella. He was highly intelligent, and like most of us, we're at the pinnacle of our career. We're at the best place you could possibly be as an assaulter or as an aviator. And I try to wrap my head around it every day, because I do think about Leon many times during the day. And I feel that, they just, looking back and understanding what we all go through, is that I have two commonalities that I've identified. One is that they lose hope, and two, they don't have a loving God at the time in which that event takes place. And like I said in the book, I talked to Leon on Wednesday, and oh man, Friday just I don't know, just something was on my mind. He was in my heart, and I wanted to call him, but for some reason I didn't. And then I got the call Saturday morning from his son-in-law that, he had taken his life. And those type of men, our type of men, we just do it. I mean, it's unfortunate that so many of my friends over the years, guys I've known, guys I've worked with, have taken their life, and it's heartbreaking. It really is.
Well, when you talk about him, I know that you didn't get a lot of, let's say, closure with him, and I know that you spent some time with his son-in-law, with his daughter. Did you guys ever get into maybe finding a reason why? I mean, other than the obvious reason why, did we ever maybe drill down a little bit and figure out what was maybe that match that struck the end?
Absolutely. These men, they lose hope. That's the big, wife leaves, can't find work, out of money, whatever the case, and it just compounds, and alcohol and drugs, they're a big part of it. So, we go through those emotions, and, we'll get sad. Sadness leads to fear. Fear leads to anger. And then anger leads to things that, we do that perhaps we wish we hadn't have done. And I think that Leon and those like him, they're hurting so bad. And I just sitting here tonight, I can't grasp it. I just can't, because we loved each other and we're always there for each other. So I wish I could put my finger on it and help guys and gals out there, both veterans, first responders, and we go back to PTS. Tom and I have talked about it. Kyle and I've talked to hundreds of people about it, but I'm on a crusade to change it, because PTS can happen to anybody. I mean, a person that's been in a vehicle accident, rape, abused as a child, and there's different degrees of PTS. And for me personally, I wish they'd call it, I want to name it PCS, post-combat stress, because that's what it is. It's long-term, years and years and years that, we go through this and constantly deploying, and when you come home, there's no rest. You got to stay on the train, and the train never stops, because you're training for the next mission, or you're training up new people in your units, and then, hey, guess what? It's time to deploy again for 100 days. So then you go back in the box and do what you do. So yeah, it wears on you. But I really would wish that they would differentiate. And I've read all the way back to World War II from them doing studies on, World War II vets, Korea, Vietnam, and then up to current. So, and especially first responders, there's been somewhat of a closed eye on first responders. And the last time I checked, the VA did a study about 18 to 24 months ago, and it's 26 veterans per day is what the VA put out, and it's probably pretty close with first responders, so law enforcement, medical personnel, those folks. So it's in any other country, to me, that's just for veterans, that's 10,000 humans a year. It would be an epidemic, but it's not looked at as an epidemic in this, and we're talking years. And what was interesting to me, the mean age, I think the last I checked was 50 years old. So we're looking at, Vietnam vets are huge in that group of folks.
Well, not only are you looking at Vietnam vets with that, you're looking at someone who has lived a lot of their life already, has gotten out the family,
Absolutely.
The jobs, the careers, college. I mean, they have come, and by no means is 50. I mean, 50 is not old at all. What I mean to say with that, though, is that we are talking about not a 20-year-old, a 21-year-old who thinks that everything that happens is the end of the world. We're talking about people that have lived life, have been around and seen it. Now, a couple of the things from the book that I kind of want your opinion on, because I think you probably feel the same way as me. I think one of the biggest problems that we have when you talk about the VA is, you said that they do a study where they say 26 a day. I think fundamentally the VA is set up in a bad situation. I think there's a no-win for the VA. One, because most of the time you're getting people that really don't care that are working there. There's some that do. I'm not going to take that away from anything, but the answer to it is push more pills, up their percentage, just do whatever gets them in and gets them out. Now, on the flip side of that coin, of course that happens because of how overwhelmed they are. So I guess my question to you is, don't you think with all these organizations that we have, organizations that you're part of, that's the basis of where we need to go? We have to start at the foundation of it, because I think that's where we're getting off the tracks, is right there.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I agree 100%. And unfortunately for vets, the VA's just been overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
So all these other organizations, these nonprofits, they saw this issue. And I've talked to a couple of doctors about this, very detailed. And so anytime this country goes to war, they bring these medical professionals together, and they try to calculate what best is going to happen. How many guys are going to be, number one, killed in action? Number two, how many are going to lose one leg? How many are going to lose two legs? How many will lose an arm? Well, due to the training that our medics receive, that our doctors receive now, and technology, man, we surpassed that golden hour in combat. And I mean, these kids out there, that are medics working on people that they're just unbelievable. So, I mean, simple things like, a darn tourniquet that tourniquet has saved so many lives throughout the 20 plus years that we've been at war. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And the VA just got overwhelmed.
Well, and that was the next part of the question to you. I want to talk about the difference between, because I think there is a distinct difference in Vietnam PTS and our current PTS. I think we're looking at two different things. And the reason I say that is because when you look at Vietnam, we had a set amount of time that was. There were bad things that happened. The war that you fought in, the war on terror, it's still going on, and it's been going on for 20 plus years. If you can't ever cycle out of that, how do we fix the problem?
Yes, that's in our leadership. I mean, all the way at the top, they deal with that daily, and it was interesting. I just watched a documentary the other night. I couldn't sleep, so I go to documentaries, but it was a study on PTS from the Civil War until 2010, I believe is how long they look back, and it was extremely interesting to me, and and the numbers, and of course it's changed names and it's changed faces over the year, from shell shock to whatever the case that they call it today and they call it tomorrow. But I think one of the big issues with our Vietnam guys is that, man, they got treated like crap when they came home. No one appreciated them. They got spit on at airports, called baby killers, and and that has a psychological effect, because you take a young man that is 19, he goes to war, comes back, he's 20 years old, or even 19. I mean, some of them are 18-year-olds going, and they come back and they're proud of their service and what they did, and then they get treated like they did when they came home, and America just did not accept them. And I just, every time I see a Vietnam vet, if he's wearing a hat or a T-shirt, I walk up to him, I shake his hand, and I tell him, "Thank you for your service and welcome home." And that means a lot to those guys. It really does.
Well, because they never got it, and I think though the problem with the war that we're talking about that you fought was they were treated as heroes. You guys were treated as heroes when you came home, but you were only home for 90 days, and then you were back over, and then you were home for 90 days, and then you were back over. It's different when you never get welcomed back into the country, and when you get welcomed back 15 times into the country. There's a huge difference. And with guys like you and guys like Brad T that we're talking about, Kyle, all those guys, Tom, it's never ending. It's just re-racking. No. You're just going right back into it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you continue on the train and you go do your job, and people have asked you, well, why do you do it? Well, you do it for the guy on the left and the right, and I mean that's the bottom line. And I mean, for all of us, it was, oh man, I didn't want to leave. They're like, no, you've got to go home, because I was afraid I might miss something, or whatever the case. But holy cow, God put me in so many places at so many definitive times. And and I'll go back to Kyle Lamb. He always told me over years, he'd say, "Gravy, if it's not written, it didn't happen. Please start putting some of your stories down." And George Hand was the same. George was an A squadron in Delta, and he would just beat me up. He was like, "Dude, you got to write some stories, man. Let's just start, somewhere." So,
well, I think that's a great segue. Yeah. Let's get into some of those stories. So I want to talk first about the flight commander of operations. Now, I never knew this was like a possibility. So you go over there expecting to be a Night Stalker, and you are, but they place you in a different role, and they place you on a spooky gunship, and they kind of make you they kind of make you the captain of all aerial. I mean, like, no one's doing anything without Gravy's permission. And so when you get over there and you're expecting to do what you've trained to do your whole career, and they say, "Hey, we're going to put you on this plane," what's the first thought that goes through your mind on that?
Oh man, I was a little bit angry, I guess, but I was also honored that, Leon was part of that. And the command from Delta, some of them had talked to me and said, "Hey, would you and the 160th?" They said, "Would you come over as the FSO, the fire support officer for the task force?" And it was just timing. I mean, one guy just left. They had a new guy come in, and us old hats. And, we've been there and done that. And we've trained to do this our whole lives. And we're a very close-knit family. And we already know what a guy's thinking on the ground, or, it just goes to that. So I said, okay. And the commander of Delta Force had talked to me about it. And I said, well, yes, sir, but just remember, I'm an AH-6 gun pilot. And, I've missed my chances up until now, but, and I always tell guys, be careful what you wish for. So that was, it was, I was honored that they asked me to do it. And I just wanted to do a good job. And that's how I went into it in Afghanistan, October 2001.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. That was the longest recorded air assault mission, correct? It was 10 hours from wheels up to the target, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so
it was over 1,000-mile air assault.
And so can we go into a little bit about why they chose to make it that long of a trip? Why maybe some of the logistics to it, something that people wouldn't know if they just read a book or they see it on. What went behind it? Because you were at the forefront of kind of planning this operation.
Yes, sir. Myself and Leon, and then another fire support officer. But it just made sense, number one. And number two is that we could not get permission to launch from any of those countries around Afghanistan. So, the logistics of it was like, okay, well, we got a ship, so we have capabilities. So, okay, we're going to have to do this off the ship. And we were running through plans, man. It was a million miles an hour. And so, and everybody would put their ideas in, because as special operators, we always say that we get paid to think outside the box. and man, we had some crazy ideas, but that just made the most sense at that time, that we could get maximum force on the target and everybody get home safe. Yes,
well, can you walk us through kind of the operation from, we don't have to go into all the details, but can you walk us through, because it's pretty interesting how it happened, because, you go by the motto over and over in the book, 30 seconds in front or behind.
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus. And you are not only doing 30 seconds plus or minus on your end, you're doing it for every gunship, airship, everything that's in the air that night. So you have that added. Now, I want you to explain, though, just how much firepower was in the air that night, because it is unbelievable when you hear this story, just how many people, ships, refueling, armament, all these guys. Can you go into how much was in this mission?
Yes, sir. I looking back, I was like, wow, I can't believe, that we did this. Number one, to get I think there were 68 fixed wing in the initial attack on Afghanistan at the objective there. And of course there was the assault force, so we had DAP, our armed Black Hawk helicopters, and then we had our 6 Chinooks with the assaulters in them. And all those guys took off from the ship, went in country, and then go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I was going to ask you, how many, if you have 6 Chinooks, how many assaulters is that?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. There are probably 40 guys per aircraft, 30 to 40 guys per aircraft. Yes, sir. But it goes back to how we plan, and I mean, we plan down. We're the best planners in the world, bar none. And I mean, we plan and plan and plan and plan. And, you know, and Mr. Murphy always raised his ugly head. And he did a couple times that night. Just, I mean, like the refuel. And, you know, and some of those things I go into in the book. You know, one of the Chinooks kind of had a hard landing. It was just hundreds of people coming together and putting the plan together and then briefing the plan. And, of course, the commander signs off on it. General Daly, at the time, he was TF Sword commander. And, you know, all the guys flying. And, of course, all the fixed wing stuff, it was, you know, they weren't with us, so we had to communicate through phone or through emails or whatever the case. But, yeah, we came up with a plan and had our coordination and all of our fires coordination, and we executed. And our, you know, for the Night Stalkers, our standard is plus or minus 30 seconds on time, on target, anywhere in the world. And we live and die by that standard because people's lives depend on that standard, and they know, the ground force knows, okay, Night Stalkers are supporting us, they're going to be here when they tell us they're going to be here. So, but it was all, you know, it was all determined on time. It was all, you know, that hit time, that H hour on that D-Day is, yeah, it was very, very critical. And I kind of had the weight of all that on my shoulders there at different times.
Not kind of, you did. Not kind of at all.
Yes, sir.
So when you're coming in, I want to talk about the ship that you're on because it has quite a bit of firepower on it. And I want to know the difference. You fly an attack helicopter. You let them know, hey, look, I'm an attack helicopter pilot. I'm going to do this for you as long as on the backside I'm going to get to fly my attack helicopter. Now, the difference, because your little bird is a bad son of a bitch, I'm telling you. It's probably the coolest helicopter ever made. And it comes like a ball of fire. The difference, though, when you watch these spookies go off onto the targets, what's the difference? What's going through your head as because they've got 105s on there. They've got everything going out of this ship. So first thoughts as you go into the battle.
Yes, sir. And as a fire supporter and a professional in that arena, that, you know, that's another thing that we have to do. We have to pick the correct weapon for that target. So is it a hard target? Is it armor? Is it personnel? And just with the AC-130U models, you know, it's just an amazing, you know, it's an amazing aircraft with all kinds of firepower, and we can pick that specific weapon for that target. So we've got, you know, the Gatling gun, we've got the 40 Mike Bofors, and then the 105. So depending on what it is, then we can weaponeer that thing to help us with success on that target. But my primary job was, once we went feet dry, was to recon the route that the Chinooks and the DAPs would take to the objective, and make sure it was clear, make sure there wasn't any ADA or early warning in it. And we'd flown it a couple nights prior just to make sure, set the conditions of the battlefield. But that night, you know, any possibility of a threat, then I made that decision to engage it, you know, with the crew of that aircraft. So, yeah, it was quite a show. It truly was.
How much battle damage do you think your ship did that night?
Oh, goodness. I have, off the top of my head, man, it was a bunch. I mean, we did a lot of killing.
And so that night, it wasn't only you and a spooky. There was one other spooky in the area, right? Or three. I'm sorry, there were three of you.
No, correct. There
flying
were
at
three,
different layers,
three
correct?
AC-130s.
Right.
Correct. Yep. We all had pre-planned targets, inner, outer, and then, to protect the force. And then there were two other spookies that went to the other objective where the Rangers did a airfield seizure, did a combat jump into there to secure it.
And so you're bringing in all kinds of, like we said, you clear the routes, and you're bringing in not only your birds, but you're bringing in fixed wing. What kind of fixed wing are we talking about that night?
Man, everything in the inventory. From B1s to B-52s, F-16s, F-15s, F-18s. We even had some British Tornadoes. It was quite the assortment, for sure.
So do you think that was because it kind of blew my mind when I read how much that you had in the area. Do you think that was that whole shock and awe thing that we were going to put the right foot down the very first step we take and show them we're not fucking around over here this time?
Yes, absolutely. That was one of the intents of the commander, and we've been operating weeks prior to that in that battle space to, one, set the conditions, find targets of opportunity, go in there, pound their air defenses, pound, whatever we could find. I mean, our ROE, rules of engagement, were pretty clear, shoot, find, shoot, and kill the enemy. So that was.
And I think it was a little different because you yourself called it D-Day operation. So, I mean, that is technically you're saying we're here to show you what we've got. And that night they really learned it. I mean, just on all the different things, even how you talked about, so the Chinook makes a hard landing, the people get out, it pulls away. There's another Chinook circling to come back and get those guys. There were ones on standby just waiting to come back and get those guys when they were done assaulting their compound. So I guess my big question of it is I'm trying to look at it all in my head. You have this many ships in the air. What is it like? I mean, is just the radio going bananas, like everyone talking? What is going on in the ship? It's got to be crazy in there with that much firepower, not only in the air, but on the ground.
Yes, sir. It's controlled chaos. It's the best way I can put it. But again, it goes back to our planning and how we conduct detailed planning, and everybody knows the plan. Everybody has a piece and a part, and it's, like I said earlier, it was all timed. It was dedicated or predicated on that H hour. So it was at, let's just say, 2,200 hours, the B1s, and then the B-52s, the X. And so we calculate, working with all those crews, is, hey, how much time do you need on target to drop whatever you're going to drop, and then we just go right to the next airframe, the next one. And I mean, once we got it started, and we all worked as a team together to figure out that we wouldn't be late because of our refuel faux pas over the middle of the ocean. And I made that call to the Chinooks. I'm like, hey, everything's go. We're caught up. We got gas, and let's hit it on time, on target.
And really
control chaos.
Yeah, and really you say a snafu with the fuel and stuff, but it wasn't that. In the end, it didn't end up being that big of a deal.
No,
because.
No, but it sure did make me sweat though.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Well, and I think the pilot kind of figured out a way to get you there and kind of save some time and all that kind of stuff. And you seem to get along with that. Now, there was one person on this ship that you did not get along with, and I want to talk about him.
Mercy.
and I want to talk about now. Listen, Greg, I want to hear your true thoughts on this guy. You named him Monkey. there became a monkey rule, and there was some stuff that came behind that. And I really want to talk about this guy and how you handled this guy before, during, and after the mission.
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of before.
You did see him, though, right?
Showed up.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, we didn't see him in any of our planning, or, you know, he came to the big brief, and I was like, who is this guy? You know, I mean, we've been up for days and hundreds of man hours planning this thing, and here comes a strap hanger to, you know, get on the big hit night mission on the AC-130. And yeah, he didn't have situational awareness. And you know, I've become very close with that crew on that AC-130. Man, they're just, and all those guys are just, man, they're the best of the best. And it was, I mean, we had some pretty crazy times on that airplane. We sure did. And I talked to the AC, the aircraft commander, and I'll just call him Swede. We were just like, okay, you know, we'll put him back in the corner and kind of give him a bowl of cereal or some Jolly Ranchers. Till, you know, shut the hell up and just sit back there and watch.
Now, what was his attitude towards you as he came up? Because he was a SEAL, correct?
No, he was a naval aviator, but he was the SEAL Team 6 liaison officer, LMO.
Okay.
Supposedly a fires guy, but we didn't know. No one knew him. Yeah, he just shows up.
So you put him on the plane, and he kind of just takes his corner, as you say, and drools on himself and falls asleep during the battle and all these kind of things. And your temper is losing with him rapidly as the flight and the mission goes on. And then he kind of makes his own big faux pas, and by trying to drop ordnance on our own troops.
Yes, I really didn't pay much attention to him once the battle started, because every one of us on that airplane, we were busy, man. We were,
right.
You know, I was coordinating aircraft and pushing aircraft and making sure everybody was where they're supposed to be, and I was listening for the assault force as they were, you know, they hit the release point and letting everybody know that, hey, here comes the assault force. They're inbound. You know, have we engaged the targets that we needed to engage to ensure that they get in there safely? And I mean, everybody was just busy.
Right.
And I had a matrix where I was keeping track of every, you know, all the flights of aircraft and, of course, our helicopters. But I really didn't pay much attention until the battle really started. And I did catch him out of the corner of my eye a few times. He was kind of up in his seat and, you know, not saying much. So, but it wasn't until that, I mean, the mission was completed successfully, and, you know, I'd called in the Chinooks for exfil, and I believe Leon Leon was on target. He was the fire support NCO for that mission for Delta, and yeah, I was just happy to hear his voice, and knew the guys had done a great job. And again, we were busy engaging targets outside of that target area. And of course, the other two AC-130s, they were busy also. But yeah, and then I heard this radio call, and we were trying to coordinate all the hooks to get in to pick up the ground force. And I'm like, wait a minute, who is that? You know, I'm trying to look, and I was like, and then I hear him talking these fixed wing bombers in. I believe they were F-18s. It was a flight of them to drop on an NAI, named area of interest, that we had pre-planned. Well, it was on the route that the Chinooks were currently coming out on, and I hear the lead fighter pilot. You know, he calls IP inbound. Well, now I'm like, okay, what's going on? It's like, then I hear him call, hey, I have the target inbound hot. And that's when I just said, you know, break, ceasefire, knock it off. And then I look over and I see this dumbass calling it no situational awareness whatsoever. None. He didn't know anything. So I jumped up. I was pretty angry at this point, and I just grabbed him and I started beating the hell out of him. I told him to get off the radio. We were seconds out from dropping ordnance on those Chinooks.
And they were already having a rough night. They already had one damaged Chinook. Yeah, they were already having a bad night. Did you ever find out? I mean, you explained it in the book as he just wanted to get him some and get in on it. But did we ever find out a reason how he picked that and is there any reason behind it, or did he just do it?
No, sir. He just did it. Yeah, who knows? I felt later after thinking about it that, he felt that he was doing, what needed to be done. And I don't know. Nobody knows. He didn't say anything all the 3.5 hour trip home. And once we landed and the door opened, he ran off.
Well, yeah.
Never to be seen again.
Well, I mean, you would think that he would clear it through flight control, that he's bringing he's bringing in fast movers. 2, he's bringing in ordnance to the ground, so he's going to be checking through fire control and air control, and he didn't do it through either one of them.
No, sir. He was supposed to clear all fires through me, and I made that very clear to him before we even took off. And he attended the big mass brief, but I said, hey, you don't do anything without clearing it through me first. So we got a process.
Right. So what are you using up there? Are you using like an IFSAS? Are you using TAC fire compute? What are you using up there to control all these fires?
Well, mate, for the fixed wing, it was all on time, and I had a matrix printed out with the call signs, their frequencies, what type aircraft they were, what ordnance they were carrying, where they were going to strike. So, once it started, I mean, I talked to the B1s. That was my first call, and everything was going as planned, so as briefed. So I gave them clearance, and then everybody had a job, to come in after each one. They'd cycle in, and they're all separated, by space in the air as they circled and held around, or, those B1s, they might have been 20 miles away,
right.
And when I tell them clear, because they're moving at Mach 2 probably, and it was a sight I'll never forget. You can see their blue flames, and they came down low, probably 500-600 feet to drop their ordnance. They had specific ordnance for their pre-planned target, and then the rest of them came in and started dropping ordnance. So, B-52 carries 105 Mark 82 500-pound bombs, and there were 2 flights of 4 wingtip to wingtip. I was like, oh man, that's gonna hurt. So, we're here and we're angry. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
If they had any doubt about it, they don't anymore. So when you get done with this mission and you have your ass whooping with Monkey and you hit his head against the wall a couple times, you get back and he runs off. There's a decision made to maybe not use you guys on if I understood it right, to not use you guys on the aircraft anymore because there was too much, I guess you would say crosstalk or whatever, but you had kind of grown to like the job and you helped get that job to continue going, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. It was mainly the Monkey ordeal that the command had looked at, and well, it was the Delta Commander, 160th, of course, Leon Hansen, the other FSO, and they're like, hey, look, this is, we didn't know. I mean, this was all new.
Right.
That we're like, hey, let's try this. And we were successful at doing it. And there were other LNOs or liaisons that would go up on the gunships. Yeah, you bet. But it was a great team, and we were very successful, and we were efficient, and we found targets and killed them.
And so you move away from that after you've done that for a while. You move away and you get back to being on a hunter killer team, and you get to go out. And the first time you go out, I think there's 4 of you that go out together. 4 little birds go out together, and your whole mission is really just to mess with the enemy. You're finding targets of opportunity. You're just kind of laying waste to whatever comes. Now, I was very surprised to hear, along with your armaments of your miniguns and your rockets and all that kind of stuff, you and your co-pilot, Jamie, really like to use your M4s and M67 grenades. And so the first time I heard that, you got to switch back and forth. One would fly and use all the armaments in the helicopter. The other one would be firing out of the helicopter with their M4, and then they would switch back over into command, and you went back and forth. What gave you that idea to do that? Because that little bird is powerful enough coming in. So what gave you that idea is it just so you could engage more targets at once? Is it because it would disrupt the enemy and not know what they were doing? What was the idea behind that?
Yes, sir. We had trained prior to this, and it goes back to the tactics in Vietnam. I mean, those guys flying their Loaches, their 086s, those jungles, and there'd be a pilot and then a gunner, and either the gunner would have a rifle or usually an M60 machine gun hanging out there. And they'd drop grenades, they'd drop smoke, to mark targets. And that's just what we did. Plus it was efficient, while the guy that wasn't flying, if a target of opportunity popped up, then he could suppress it or engage it with, very, very good accuracy. So yeah, it made sense. We're killers, and that's what we do. So, the guy's flying, he's focused on that target. He's focused on, what he needs to do. The other guy not flying, he does what he needs to do to get you to that target. And then your M4's up, or, you can reach in, grab a hand grenade and drop it on the bad guys.
Which you did quite a few times. As a matter of fact, you did it so many times on one mission, you got called in about it and had to explain why you were dropping grenades out of your helicopter.
Yeah.
So
yes, sir. Yeah, the old man didn't like my response.
He did not, and I want to talk about him in a minute, because you guys seem like you had quite a close relationship. I know that sounds weird, but it seems like he trusted you a lot more than you would think maybe you deserved or maybe that you needed, but he almost treated you as an equal to him. I mean, he's the task force commander, and he's treating you as an equal. But I want to go back to that first one. Is it true that you had probably 200 kills that night?
Oh, yes, sir, at least.
Holy shit.
Just our team of AHs, and there was another team that went off to the west. And I mean, that was our mission. That's what we did. So yeah, it was a target rich environment.
Yeah, I would say so. You destroyed like 3 fuel tankers, 200 personnel, armored vehicles, like 5 armored vehicles, like 9 soft skinned vehicles. I mean, you were just decimating stuff out there. And so I'm wondering,
it was a gun pilot's dream.
Well, yeah. And I'm wondering though, is when we look at this is kind of your first time doing what you've trained to do your whole life, right? I mean, this is the deal. And so you're introduced into this, and you're introduced in a big way into this. Like this, if you wanted to cut your teeth, this is how you're going to do it. What I enjoyed about it was that you always gave Jamie credit. You always said he was a better pilot than you. You said that he could do things with that aircraft that you could not believe that he could do with it. I just wonder about that. You're the elite. You are the best of the best. How do you stay grounded and are able to give that kind of niceness or respect to the guy. You guys are equal. I mean, you both done the same thing. How do you check yourself into that? Because it's going to kind of go into this next thing that we're going to talk about.
Yes, sir. And I always felt that I didn't belong there. I truly did. And I mean, for me personally, I consider myself, I walked among giants, and, you know, I looked up to all those fellas, and they were by far the best of the best. And Jamie Weeks, and, you know, God bless him, and I think about him every day. He was killed in action with Bubba Worrell in Iraq. But that guy, he could make that helicopter dance like nobody I'd ever flown with. He was just, God had given him a gift. Yeah, he could. I was honored to get to fly with Jamie in our first combat mission. So I'd known him for many, many years. We had flown Apaches together in the 101st.
You know what is interesting though about that is that there's no ego in the helicopter. Now, did you ever run across that where there was ego in the helicopter, or did you both kind of know, no matter what aircraft you were in, no matter who you were flying with, like, everyone knows what they're doing. I don't have to second guess this guy. Did you ever run across that ever? And I'm not just talking in the 160th.
Never.
I'm talking whenever you flew from the beginning to the end. Did you ever come across that?
No, sir. I never did in the attack. I was always an attack guy. I flew Cobras, Apaches, and then
Right.
Little Birds. But never. I mean, every man knows what he has to do, and you know, you live together, you train together, you laugh together, you cry together, and you just know. Like, I knew what Jamie was going to do when he was thinking it. I didn't have to ask him, or I knew what lead was going to do, or if we were in lead, I knew what trail or dash 2 or wingman was going to do. You just, no, you never had to second guess it, and there was never ever any egos in there, ever. You're just there to do your job and do the best you can do.
So on one of your missions when you're with him, your M4 gets a little fouled as you're trying to use it out your door. So you decided that since you're from Texas, you were going to play Wild Wild West and pull out your pistol and start firing on targets. You actually, Jamie says that you hit 2 targets.
That's what he said, and to this day, I don't. And it goes back to training. I mean, it's, you know, not only are we attack helicopter pilots, but we're very proficient with our rifles, our pistols, and, you know, we don't ever want to be a liability if we ever find ourselves on the ground, which I did.
Yes.
And, you know, we want to be an asset. And it goes back to Black Hawk Down, the Battle of the Black Sea, Mogadishu in October 3/4/93. But as a firearms instructor for the unit, and, you know, I always push the guys and press them, but I think it just goes back to training. You know, my primary went down, so I went to my secondary, which was, you know, my 1911. And I filled the sights and started pressing the trigger at, you know, and they were fairly close, you know, and I was like, man, they're gonna start engaging here pretty soon. But yeah, my rifle sling on my rifle had hung up, and I couldn't get it up, so I just dropped it, and I was like, okay, this is all I got. So yeah.
And you said you were very glad that you had moved from your hip to your chest with your sidearm.
Yeah.
That was something.
I thought about it a lot.
Go ahead.
No, I thought about that quite a bit, and I'd actually done it prior to 9/11 in training and kind of moved holsters around so, you know, I could get to it, or the guy next to me or the guy behind me or beside me could also get to that weapon. It's just, that's how we think, and that's, you know, how we're brought up to think outside that box. But yeah, so I'd moved mine to my kit, to my vest, and had kind of rigged it with, I don't know, 550 cord and, you know, whatever. And I finally got I had a Blade Tech holster, and being a lefty, you know, so they have to kind of special make those things. And I'd call them and say, hey, could you make me a left-handed holster? They're like, you bet. So it was, yeah, it was kind of one of a kind. It was a prototype, so to speak. But yeah, so I just grabbed my pistol and I started putting rounds down to the enemy.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing that happened. So I told you that I, thought when I heard about you dropping grenades and stuff out of the helicopter. So you had dropped so many that the general had called you in to talk to you. The old man called you in to talk to you. Now, here's what I noticed throughout the whole book, and you can tell me if I'm wrong about it, but I feel like there was something special about the way that you moved around. And what I mean is you could be one of the guys. You hung out with everyone. You made coffee in the morning for everyone. You talk about that in the book. But you could also talk to the command. Now, that's a very hard thing to do, whether that be a first responder, whether that be someone in the military. That's a difficult thing to do, be able to be one of the guys and still be able to talk to command. So how is it that you came about that? What approach did you take to that people can learn from how to move around in both worlds?
Yes, sir. That's a very valid question. And for me personally, our commanders and our leadership, they have full faith and confidence in us as warriors, as soldiers, as officers, operators. And, if I felt it was critical, and our command always had an open door, so to speak, that, hey, if you got something, please, please, please come talk to us about it. But in that position that I was in for that time, I had very close relationship with all the command, from General Daly down to our ops officers, to all those folks, because it was critical that I communicate with them or talk with them, ask them questions. So yeah, and people always said it could be a strength or it could be a weakness, my candor, but I would and I'd always go to the old man, as we call them, to our leadership, and hey, sir, I think this is broken, but here's how you can fix it. Here's how we can fix this. So that's always been with me in my career, and out of respect for them, that what, if something's wrong, you need to tell someone, but always have a solution to that problem. Don't go in there and say, hey, this is screwed up. Have a solution to fix it. And they respect that in all of us. So it goes down to our sergeants, to our enlisted NCOs, all those folks. They were all highly respected.
And so when you can do that and you can go back and forth, do you find that it's a lot easier to get done what you need to get done?
Yeah. Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, and being, I was that guy, and I talk about it in the book because I was a little disappointed, and one of my close buddies, Jim Hosey, I told him, what the plan was for me, and he just laughed, and he goes, well, he says, I'm telling you, you're gonna find yourself in the middle of it. And I said, well, okay, I'm gonna go with it, but I sure do want to get in the AH and go deal some hate on these bad guys. So, but when I would come back, they'd always be like, okay, what's going on? What's happening? Because you're that direct link, and then, you bring that information to, I always try to keep guys up to date and let them know what was latest and greatest. Yeah, again, it's just managed chaos. So,
as much as you could talk to command, you had a little trouble on Thanksgiving with a couple of visitors that came out to see you guys on one of your tours. No. So you had a little trouble with General Shinsheki. Now, I was in when this happened, and I remember when we went over from the patrol cap to the beret. We changed over, and you had some real heartburn with him about going to that beret. What was your thoughts on, I'm guessing that your thoughts on command at that point were they have no idea what they're doing?
Yes, sir. And we all pretty much felt that way. That, and I understand that the leadership and all the services, one of their priorities is morale and, making folks feel the way they need to feel. But me personally, that was not how you fix the problem. And the Black Beret belongs to the Ranger Regiment. Always has, always will be. And, to give every soldier in the United States Army a black beret to make them feel better was just not the right answer for me, personally. And, that's a beret is something that is earned. And, these men that go into special forces or to the Ranger Regiment or that are airborne or to the 160th, man, there's a lot of blood and sweat that goes into earning that beret. And it was one of my most proudest moments, earning my maroon beret. So for the 160th. But yeah, it just rubbed me the wrong way, man. Yeah.
So they come visit, and you don't go into a lot of detail about what they did, but I guess they get up on stage and they're going to give like a morale speech about what's going on over there. And they call like the female soldiers soldierettes, and
oh goodness gracious, yes.
They were kind of doing like a comedy act almost.
Yeah, and we were kind of whispering between us. I mean, here you have the most elite force on the planet. You have Delta, the Rangers, and the Night Stalkers. And Chief Staff of the Army comes in with the Sergeant Major of the Army giving us this hula speech at Thanksgiving. We're all looking at each other like, what in the world? And they talk about standards. And, one of the first things I thought of was, well, we set the standards. We wrote the standards for, not only do we do our mission, but, we help the big Army or the Marines or the Navy or whoever that, with tried, true, and tested tactics and procedures that, we know that work. So, hey, okay, you guys, this works. And we all started looking at each other when he starts talking to us about standards. We're just like, what in the world is going on? Yeah, and then the Sergeant Major of the Army, I think there were 3 females, and they were intel, professional soldiers, and refers to them as soldierettes. And you just could have heard a pin drop in there at that time. Oh goodness. Yeah, they just didn't know who their audience was, I guess.
And so did you run across that a lot? Because you talk about it a couple times in the book where you run across different commands. I think the first time the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders came there and you decided to take a quad and an RTO over there to meet up with your buddy that was in charge of them, and you got kind of dirty looks from the command, and then they actually told your friend, and he told him he was a close friend of yours, that you guys don't exist and they're not taking anyone over to meet you and they're not wasting the time on it. Yeah. Did you see that a lot, even being in as elite a unit as you were in? Did you see that with command a lot, where they kind of, I guess you would say, or big Army command, kind of look down their nose at you?
Yeah, sure. And that's, it was, they were regular Army officers and senior enlisted, but yes, I always felt that, and you can read, it's out there, and it has been for years and years and years, that, they just kind of look down at you. And, it was unfortunate that day that, because Dan Devins was, the fellow that I met with the Dallas Cowboys organization, and, and he got excited and I was excited, but he was going to, they were going to come up there and see us, and they said, no, those guys don't exist, and those aren't black helicopters. And Dan, I've known him for years, and and he knows who we are, what we do, and it was unfortunate. It was.
So did you see that a lot going through, and why do you think that is? Because with you guys being elite, is it they hate you because they ain't you? What is the idea behind that? Because you would think that it wouldn't be, I don't want to use the word reverence. They don't have reverence to you, but you would think that they know, like, these guys know what they're doing. I mean, they're at it every single day. Is there a reason why they look down? Is it because you guys are pipe hitters constantly, or what is it?
I don't know. And I mean, me personally, I had many friends out in big army, regular army, and they all, I mean, they respected us and they respected, what we did and what we do. And I never had much interaction with anyone outside the special operations community. And I mean, there's all kind of books out there written and how regular army kind of looked down at special operations for whatever reason. I don't know, but I think it has changed drastically since 9/11 because we're a big team. I mean, we're all a team and we're all striving for the same end state of each and every one of those commanders out there.
Would you like to talk about being shot down? Because I definitely want to talk to you about it.
Oh, sure, man. Yeah,
8 seconds.
That was
8 seconds.
Mr. Murphy.
And you get shot down, and you not only get shot down, but in pure gravy fashion throughout this entire book, you get pissed off enough to attack the guys that attack you and kill the people that shot your bird down. So let's start out with the mission. Run us through the mission until you get shot down, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, sure. It was March of '04, and I'd come back on that tour, and it was the 18th of March. We were operating quite a bit in Fallujah and Ramadi, and it was, I mean, man, it was the wild, wild west. We had the incursion of jihadists, and they were flooding into the country to fight Americans. So Al-Qaeda, terrorists, and we kind of called that area the Devil's Triangle. You go from Fallujah over to Ramadi and then down to Amaria in the vicinity of where I was shot down. So in that triangle, there have been several helicopters shot down in just a couple of months. And I don't believe there have been any survivors, and a couple of them have been Chinooks full of troops.
Right.
So
I think the number you gave was 7.
Yes, sir. Yeah. But we were hitting, oh goodness. Let's see, that time of year, we had a little bit, we could hit more targets because we had more darkness. It was dark longer than in the summer where, the nights are shorter. But we had hit, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 targets a night. And we had gained intel off of a target in Fallujah that night that another high-ranking Al-Qaeda leader was going to meet in Fallujah at like 10 o'clock that next morning. So we came off mission set that night, and the ground force said, hey, you guys, just hang out here, and we're going to go hit the target because, we're all thinking, oh, Lord, not a daytime mission in Fallujah in, 2004. So we hung out at our little holding area there. We cranked up, got up on the radios, and the sergeant major said, hey, if something happens, we'll just give you a call, and we could be there in 2 minutes. So they hit that target, got that guy, and then from that fellow that they had a chat with, there was another target that was down in that close to Amaria. So Sergeant Major came back, troop commander, and said, hey, we're just going to drive down there. We're going to kill him or capture him. And, you guys go back to BIOP, Baghdad International Airport, where we're staging out of, and, go get some rest because we've been nonstop for days now. So we fly back, and then it was around 12:30 or so in the afternoon, and the ground force had been in a tick, so they'd called troops in contact. So we ran out to the AHs to, just to go help them. And I mean, that's who we are. That's what we do. And so we jumped in the Chariots of Death, hauled ass out there. It's probably 10, 12-minute flight. Got on station. They had been in some gunfights there, and again, it was just a bad place. I mean, everybody was a bad guy. So, troop commander had called and said, "Hey, we're getting ready to exfil. We're done here." So everybody was relieved, to say the least. Again, it was about 13-15 hours local time, and it was our first day mission since October 3rd, 93. So in Mogadishu.
That's not a good thing.
No, yeah. It was no, sir. And so I came back around, and they had 3 gun trucks, up armored Humvees, and then 2 Panders, which are big 6-wheel armored vehicles. And I'd always kind of swoop down over them, a few feet above them, and do the old wave and fish shake or flip them off or whatever the case. But yeah, it was just a huge sigh of relief that we were leaving that place. And we had stirred up the hornet's nest. So I just, flown right over top of them. I was climbing out, climbing right-hand turn to come back around so we could cover them as they started to drive out. And I was about 165 feet. I was in a kind of southwesterly direction in which I was headed. And then just this giant explosion, and this fireball went, right by my head, my shoulder, and it got real quiet. I was like, oh Lord. Of course, any pilot, the first thing out of their mouth is, "Oh shit." I'm telling you. And at that point, I was like, okay, I've got to get, the helicopter set up for an auto rotation. So I'm an IPN instructor pilot and done hundreds of auto rotations, and the little birds, we do them all the way to the ground. The rest, nobody else does them to the ground but us. And that's just how we train. And we always, we're out, we train for an engine failure. So if your engine quits, you enter an auto rotation that keeps the main rotor spinning, the tail rotor spinning. It's just a power off landing is the best I can explain it. But the AH-6 or the MD-530 helicopter, it falls like a greased crowbar. It auto rotates at about 2,700 feet per minute. Cool. So you're screaming out of the sky. Well, when you enter an auto, you got to think about your airspeed. I was at about 65, 70 knots, so my airspeed was good. But I had I'll never forget, I had a direct tailwind, and it was about 20 knots. Plus, I was heavy. I was full of ammo, gas, had rockets, minigun, and so I entered my auto, and the instant that happened, the best way I can describe it is that, in anybody that's been in a very stressful situation or in a gunfight or an emergency situation, it was like a movie. It's frame by frame by frame by frame. My world slowed down, and my training took over. And I remember checking my airspeed, my altitude, my rotor. I was like, oh man, my rotor's getting a little low, or it was getting a little high. So I increased collective, keep that rotor down, because if it goes to 106 RPM and it keeps going, well, the main rotor can spin off the helicopter or cause other damage. And again, I didn't see the shot. He shot me in the back like the lowlife that he was. And it was an SA-16 shoulder-fired surface-to-air missile. It's a heat seeker. And when they can set it to proximity, it's got a prox fuse. So when it gets so far from that heat source, it'll explode, and then it sends all that shrapnel. Well, it worked as advertised. It hit the engine. And the guys told me later that the engine cowling doors had blown them open, And two of the ground guys had seen the shot from a 2-story building, so they started to suppress immediately where the shot came from. But the guys that saw us, they said it looked like I was trying to fly. Those engine cowlings were flapping back and forth, and I was on fire all the way down. There's actually a photo that one of the Rangers snapped, and you can see the fire coming. It's just a little black dot. It's not a real good picture, but it's the only picture that we have, and I thought it was pretty cool to see that. But I just focused on the task at hand, and I entered my auto. My trim was good, my airspeed was good, and as a helicopter pilot, use things around you in the environment to judge your distance above the ground. But we have a radar altimeter in that helicopter, so there were no trees, there were no buildings, it was just dirt out there. So I was focusing on my radar altimeter because there's things that I have to do as an aviator. At 75 feet, I have to start a decel to bleed that airspeed off. So I saw 75 feet in my scan. I was watching the rotor trim, airspeed, and where we were going to the ground. And so I started my decel, and I thought to myself, hey, I want to minimize my ground run when I touch down, because I didn't know the conditions of the surface. Was it rocky? Was it hilly? Was it whatever? And I didn't want to slide very far. So I just did a really progressive big decel to bleed that airspeed off. And then about 25 feet, you want to level the aircraft and then pull initial with the collective. That helps slow you down and helps cushion that landing. And then at 10 feet, you want to pull the rest of the collective that you have left to cushion your landing. That's the best way I can explain it. And I did that, and we touched down, and of course the aircraft just fills with dirt and dust. And the other AH said he said it was the prettiest auto rotation he had ever seen. And it's kind of like Neil Armstrong landing the lunar module. You got one chance to do this, and you got to do it right. So we got on the ground, and I talked to my co-pilot later, and we were in our heads, we were kind of high-fiving each other. We were like, oh yeah, I got this thing. We're on the ground. Everything's good. We're sliding. And then old Mr. Murphy raised his old ugly head, and we went down a bit of a slope, slid about 35 meters into some soft dirt, and the skids stuck in the dirt, and that flipped us end over end. Well, being an old cowboy and breaking broncs and riding horses and stuff, I'll never forget that that forward motion. That helicopter was just going up, up, up like a horse was bucking, and I can remember just kind of really pushing back on the pedals, getting my feet deep in the stirrups to, oh no, and I recall the rotor blades hitting the dirt, and again I was thinking, man, I got to keep it level, because if you're one side or the other, those rotor blades could come through the cockpit. If you're not level when that thing starts rolling over. And thank the good Lord, He was watching over us. And we were level and came to. Of course, we came to. We were inverted, and the first thing I remember is hearing popcorn. I was like, "What in the world is that?" Well, the helicopter's engulfed in fire, and that was the ammo cooking off in the minigun cans behind us. And I was like, oh man, that's the ammo cooking off, So, you go through those checks. You check, okay, my toes move, my feet move, my legs move. Okay, my arms kind of are moving. I dislocated my shoulders. And in the crash sequence, we rolled end over end like 3 times, came to rest inverted. And dust was kind of clearing, and I reached over to my co-pilot and put my hand on his shoulder, and I said, "Hey, you okay?" He was looking straight ahead, and he kind of turned his head, and he had blood all over his face. And I was just like, "Oh Lord, man, is he hit?" And then I thought about the little bird's somewhat infamous in a crash in a roll sequence. The shoulder harnesses don't lock, so the pilot, his mouth hits the cyclic. We call it the cyclic kiss. And I know guys that have been, they're missing all their teeth. The shoulder harness didn't lock, but they were able to walk away from it. But so I looked at him and I said, "Hey, you okay?" And he just kind of nodded his head. And I said, "All right, get your rifle and meet me out." I pointed to the side. You don't want to get in front of an attack helicopter because that's where weapons are pointed, the guns and the rockets. And so you always go to 3 or 9 o'clock. But I pointed, and I said, "Meet me over here." And he kind of nodded, and he went back to looking dead ahead. And I grabbed my rifle. I pulled my harness buckle, and boom, I was already kind of on the ground where my side was on the ground. So I crawled out, and of course my first thought was, "Oh my gosh, man, little black helicopter shot down, Black Hawk down." The whole thing ran through my head. So my first priority was security of that, of my helicopter and my co-pilot. Of course, I could hear the other A8 shooting. I could hear, the ground guys, they were shooting, the 50 cals, or they had dual 240G machine guns on one of the trucks. They were engaging targets of opportunity, suppressing. And then one of the guys had got in one of the gun trucks to come, check on us. So I tried to get up, and my right leg wasn't working. And so I'd stand up, and then I'd fall down. I'd stand up, I'd try to take a step, I'd fall down. And the other A8s, they were kind of watching this because they kept checking on us. They'd go engage a target, come back, check on us, and they told me later that they're like, "Dude, we were getting ready to land because the helicopter's on fire. We didn't see any movement, and then we see old Gravy. He's up, then he's down." They said it looked like a clown. He's up, and he's down. He's up, and he's down. They kind of swooped over, and we gave the international symbol of the middle finger and let them know we were okay. And they went back, and they were about to run out of gas, so they had to leave. So I looked back, and I was like, "Man, I need to get my rucksack." We both carried little one-day rucks right behind us in the bulkhead, and it's got our night vision goggles, it's got ammo, it's got grenades, water, and so I kind of hobbled back, and I looked, and the whole cargo area was just engulfed in flame. And I was like, "Man, I'm not sticking my hand in there to get that stupid rucksack out." So then I'm looking for the co-pilot. I don't see him. So I go back to the front, crawl in there, and I tell him, I said, "Hey, you've got to get out right now, okay?" And he kind of nodded his head. And later I talked to him, and I said, "Man, what in the world were you doing?" He goes, "I was listening to the radio. They were talking about us." "Hey, hey, you guys have been shot down, and we're in a gunfight, and we don't know the status." And I was like, "Okay." So I crawled back out because, again, I'm thinking in my head that, okay, these dudes are going to start, rushing this helicopter. And I mean, it's just open desert, dirt, nothing around us. So I'd take another look 360 degrees around, make sure I got good security. And I look back and I say, "Where is the co-pilot?" So I kind of crawl back over there. I crawl in the helicopter, and I didn't say anything to him. I just reached up and grabbed the latch. You're familiar with the latch harnesses. And I pulled it, and he went, nope, because he was upside down. He hit. And then he kind of looked at me. I just grabbed him. And when I went in there that last time, the fire was just, he was in the left seat, and it was just rolling around his arm. I mean, right there at him. So I just grabbed him. I just jerked him out on top of me. And we were just sitting there face to face, and I said, come on, we got to go. He shook his head again. And so we got out, and we got to the 3 o'clock position there, about 50 meters away. And I thought about we had 17-pound rockets on board. And I was like, man, what are those things going to do, when they catch on fire? But they just burned up. They never exploded or anything like that. The ammo cooked off for quite some time. Well, I set up the co-pilot. He was looking to the north in the prone, and I was on a knee looking to the east because that's where the gunfight was. That's where the shot came from. I said, hey, we're kind of jacked up right now, so if you see something, just, sing out, and we'll put 2 sets of eyes on it. We'll put 2 guns on it. He had his rifle. And so I looked at him. I'd taken his helmet off and checked him out real well. So I was like, okay, let me see your grinners, so let me see your teeth. And he showed me his teeth, and they were okay. And I was like, man, where's this blood coming from, So I said, hey, open your mouth and stick out your tongue. Well, he bitten through his tongue.
Oh.
And about half of it, that crashing, that's where the blood came from. And I was like, oh, Lord. I said, okay. So I'm sitting there, and I don't know what time passed by, but I heard a truck. So I tell him, I'm like, hey, I got a vehicle coming up. So I heard it stop. And then I see this head. I said, I got contact on me. And so we kind of scooted together and put 2 guns up. And so I saw a bald cat, and I see his face, and then I see his beard, and I'm like, oh, I know that guy. I said, okay, we're good. There's old Chaz, and he come to fetch us, and he's running. I mean, just full tilt. And he kind of stops and looks at us, and then he takes off, and he gets up there to us, and of course he hugs us, and he goes, man, he said, Greg, we thought you guys were dead. I said, well, we ain't dead. And he goes, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go find that son of a bitch and kill him. He goes, well, get in the truck. And I said, roger that. So we kind of clambered up in the truck. We met up with the other vehicles, and and then we spent the next about 6 hours in a gunfight. So, yes, sir. Yeah, we attacked the Ville and got into the Ville and tried to, find somebody that knew about what had happened. I had a theory that it was a person that had SA-16s, because that was a very highly advanced technological weapon system, and nobody, no one had a clue that they were even in country. But every one of those weapon systems leaves a signature trail. So when it's fired, it'll corkscrew, and it'll have dark smoke or light smoke or gray smoke, and everyone has a very signature corkscrew as it goes, as it launches and starts its flight. And a couple of guys says, dude, that was an SA-16. And I said, okay. So I wanted to get to that building and check the roof to see if there were any, any dunnage or anything left up there, and there was nothing. So we, I wanted to confirm or deny. And so yeah, we got gathered up. We got stuck in the mud there during the middle of a gunfight, and the pander came around. And the dude jumps out and hooks on a strap, pulls us out, and yeah, we're covering them. And yeah, it was just another day at the office.
Well, I was about to say, was that your worst day in the Army ever?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'd have to say so. Yeah.
So after being shot down, you come back to the United States. You start having some surgeries, but something that we haven't talked about that I kind of want to get into now, if it's okay with you, is you had started not being able to sleep well. You had started having like bad dreams. You were having these surgeries, all these kind of things. Do you see it not only starting to affect you, but it's starting to affect your family? Now you're getting surgery. Now you're getting pain medicine to you. You can't sleep at night. You're starting to get haunted by stuff that you've seen. Kind of go through you coming back to the United States. We talked about it in the beginning where you're not just coming back once, you're coming back 15 times, you're coming back 20 times. At a certain point, does your family, I guess, not care as much that you're back because they have their own thing? You write about that where you think you're kind of just in the way.
Yes. And I think every soldier goes through that our families become independent, very independent, because dad's gone, especially in our community. I mean, crap, I figured up one time I averaged like 290 days a year on the road, TDY or training, or that was before 9/11. Then, you throw in 10, 11, 12, 14, 15 combat tours, but they have to structure their lives without dad there, without that spouse there. And for me, it was, one, I was suffering from PTS and diagnosed with survivor's guilt it was about a year later that, but you go through different phases, and, for me, it was this, I was in pain constantly. I wasn't sleeping, and I had a severe traumatic brain injury. I hit the side of the door frame in the crash sequence, and I hit it so hard it cracked my helmet, and I had this terrible, terrible headache it was about 9 months. And
just a constant headache for 9 months?
24/7, man. Nothing would subdue my head from hurting. And, of course, they had sent me all over the place and had brain scans. And, they explained, hey, you got a brain bruise, and a pretty severe one. And, your brain swells, and your brain sits in fluid inside your skull. And, if you look at the physics of all that. So, I battled that plus all my injuries at the time. But, for Greg Coker, I wanted to get fixed, and I wanted to get back in the fight because, one, there's not many of us that do what we do. I think at the time, maybe 24, 25 of us.
And you were two pilots down.
Yes, sir. Now we're 2 pilots down.
So
now somebody's going to have to take my place.
Yeah, I want to stop you for just a second, and it's not because I really want to get into this. So the whole thing about this is you talked about your helmet and that you cracked it, right? You got your buddies to get rid of that helmet because that was going to be an
yes, sir.
That was going to be an automatic 2-year where you couldn't fly. So here's my question to you. You have 2 daughters at home. You have a wife at home. You have all these things that you love back there. And you're willing to risk it all, especially knowing how hard you hit your head. You're willing to risk it all to fly more missions. I got to know where you're coming from. That was the biggest part of the book where I'm like, what is he doing? Like, I get it to a certain point. I do. I understand it. But when you get to, you just escaped death, very luckily escaped death. You have
God's will.
Absolutely. You have a headache that doesn't go away for 9 months. And the only thing that you can think about, because you talk about it, you prayed to go back over there.
Yes.
Do you ever think my number's going to come up on one of these things? And all these people that are waiting for me here, I got to understand it.
Yeah, that's, man, I ask that question every day. Was it the right decision at that time? No, it wasn't. But I will say this: our doctors in the unit and across that community, they love us and they do everything they can to help us. But if I tell the doc, hey, I'm good to go, then they take that. They're like, okay, he says he's good to go. If Greg says, hey, doc, I'm not good, I need some time off, then okay, we'll let the command know, and yes, you need some time off. But we're all very driven men. We're very driven, and we love one another. And, again, it goes back to, I know it sounds crazy, but I did not want to miss anything. And my purpose that God had put me here on this earth for was to be out there doing my job and protecting my brothers on the ground. So that's what drove me then. And, and looking back, was it the right decision? No, it wasn't the right decision. And also, I know that there's only so many of us, and I don't want to let my brothers down. And it ain't about me. It's about our team, our tribe. So, I did not want to fail, and I didn't want to let those guys down, the ground guys or the guys that I flew with.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good question.
So do you see that there is because you go into it a little bit in the book, did you see there was a strain starting to happen with your daughters, with your wife? And when you see that, when I read the book, it seems like you almost kind of went into more of a shell.
Yes, I sure did. And because I was this extremely angry, hurting man in pain constantly and not focused on my family. I was committed to my duty and my job. And I just, I was at a point where I didn't separate that, which I wish I could have and would have, because that went on for years, literally. And then, of course, I didn't sleep. And the reason we don't sleep is because the demons come at night or when we sleep. So, okay. And then there's alcohol. Hey, I can fix this. I'll just drink until I pass out. And guess what? It's time to go on another tour. So, you go and do your job, and there's no alcohol, and everything's good because you're with your buddies. You're doing what you love. And, man, I thought about my family, all the time. But I had a job to do, and our country was at war, and I'm dedicated. And, and I told guys this for years and years, and I still do, that, when God's knitting us in our mother's womb, our path's already predestined. He's got this. Yeah, we may bump the left and right limits, but, your path you're destined to do what he wants you to do for his goodness. So I thought about that quite a bit. I talked to the chaplains about it. I talked to the docs about it. I talked to, the guys that were in my circle, but I did not talk to the right people about that. So I held that in. I pushed it down for many years. And man, it'll eat you up. You can't do that. You got to go talk to the right folks and, talk to your family, talk to your spouse, talk to your kids. And I talk about it in the book that, the focus started to, come out on the vet, but it needs to be on that family also. They suffer from PTS. Look at all the nights they go through. I mean, many times we had no communication with our family. It was just for operational security. They didn't know where we were. They didn't know what we were doing. If you got hurt, they'd get a phone call And yeah, it's tough, but on the other side, we have very strong family support groups throughout the military now, and that's those ladies keep they keep everybody going, and they're a tribe. They take care of the kids, our docs, our medics. They come to the house when babies are sick or mama's sick or whatever the case. It's a tribe, man. It takes a tribe to get through all that. Sure does.
And so when all this is going on and you're going back and forth and you're praying to go back over there, and then you go back over there and you're fine, but you're really not, because it's debilitating you more and more and more every time you do it. Not only physically. I think I read in there that when you were 43, you were benching like 415, running sub 7 minute miles. Oh, yeah. And I was truly embarrassed about myself.
No.
Greg, I'm going to tell you, for a second, I hated myself. And I was like, wow, you are one lazy piece of shit. So
no, you're not. No,
so I see this and I read about you going back over there and coming back, and it's just more and more and more. The dreams are starting to haunt you more. And I guess you finally get told, it's time to go, man.
Yes. You bet.
And so when they tell
Absolutely.
you it's time to go, because you just told me your job, it doesn't matter about you. Your job is protecting the man to the right and to the left. Your country's at war. You've given every bit of your soul, your body, your blood, everything to this country. Mm-hmm. And then it's as simple as someone coming up and saying, Greg, it's time to go. Goodbye.
Yeah, yes, sir. And at that point, I had come to the realization that I am no longer I'm becoming I am a liability. And I always thought worst case, okay, let's just say we get shot down again, or something happens, we have to land, or, can I do what I need to do? No, there at the end, 2007 or so in there that, and even the guys told me that I flew with that, hey man, we're worried about you. And I said, yeah, you're right. And then, it's all God's plan that, the boss came up to me one day and said, hey, Gregory, when he calls me Gregory, I'm like, uh-oh, now I'm in trouble. But he said, yeah, it's time to go home. I said, yes, sir. He said, you've been all you can be, man. I said, okay, roger that.
So I guess I'm wondering, because I'm not there yet. I'm pretty close. I'm about 6 years from retirement, maybe some more.
Mm-hmm.
What are you feeling though? You have to, because it can't be both ways, Greg. You just told me everything about your world was that. And then they come up and they tell you that world is no more. We are moving on. So what are you feeling? How do you work through that? Because we talked about it in the very beginning when we talked about Leon, and we talk about these guys that have no hope. Now, you said in the book you had no inkling of an idea ever to do something like that. It's too messy. But you're in the exact same spot. So how do you, or what do you tell these people that go, I just gave all this and this is the end? This is it.
Yeah, it's scary to say the least. And man, it was, I talked to God a bunch. I'm a very faithful Christian man, and I've cursed God. I've been angry at him, but it's, you have to look inward, number one. And I'm a very positive person, and I'm like, okay, I just completed one part of my life. Now it's time to go on to the next. And I have to take care of my family. I have to reintegrate into society, which I still haven't done today. I don't know if any of us ever will. We try, but I'm like, okay, so I'll get a plan together. And I did have, moved to Texas and bought a place and build a house and go to work and do my part. So it was a lot of personal struggle. Yeah, I think it even got worse after I retired, and because I missed, oh man, you miss that camaraderie, you miss your brothers, your friends, and man, we're all adrenaline junkies. I guess that's the best way I can put it, is that, it was fulfilling for me as a man, as a hunter, as a warrior, and to do that job. It absolutely was.
So when you're talking about retirement, you're talking about that it's that camaraderie and that you miss being with those guys, and it shows in the jobs that you took afterwards. They were all security jobs. They were all, once again, and as funny as it sounds, they were away from your house again.
Yes.
At one point, you traveled away to Arizona for a whole year, and so I guess.
Yes, sir.
I guess once again we go back to that question. In your brain, you said, hey, I got to step away from that. I got to be with the family. I got to do this. And then you go into retirement and you go right back out into exactly what you just left. In a different way, but right back into what you just left.
I believe really that fear, and my fear was, one, I've got to make a living, and I've got to take care of my family.
Absolutely.
And so, I worked in the firearms industry for many, many years, and Mike Dillon had called in 2000, I think it was 2010. Well, Dillon Arrows is a very small company, and they build and manufacture the M134 minigun. Mm-hmm. And I've known the Dillons for many, many years, and I love them all dearly. But 3 of their employees had been activated, so they had to go overseas. And he asked me, he said, hey, could you come out here and help us for a few weeks? It wound up being a year that I stayed out there. But it was, that looking back, it probably wasn't the right decision again. But it was through fear that, I've got to make a living. I've got to make money. I had girls, teenage, and getting ready to go to college. And so I went to where the money was good, and I worked as a firearms and tactics instructor for Viking Tactics for some time for Kyle. Mm-hmm. Did that. That was my favorite. You're of course you're with Kyle all the time, and he and Melinda, and oh my gosh, man, I owe so much to those two. But I was doing what I love to do, and again though, I was gone on the road doing what I do. So, but a lot of it's fear. I think it's fear.
Well, I think it's almost even like a fear, like a shark. If a shark stops moving, they say they die. I think it's
stop swimming.
Yeah. I think it's, I almost think it's that. But the reason I bring this up, and I hate to do it, but I think it's like the most valid point about the whole story and about the whole book, because it leads ultimately to your redemption. You end up getting a divorce. You end up kind of losing contact with your girls. But it all leads back to something good. What, to me, because it doesn't really talk about it in the book, if you don't mind, what was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, that kind of put all this last part into motion before the redemption comes?
For Greg Coker, it was I was just an angry man, and I wasn't happy. And again, I was scared. There's a lot of fear. Of course, it was alcohol, and that is to subdue those demons and put those to rest. Doggone, it just, it was a train wreck. it was a train wreck.
Right.
But after that I got my faith got back on track, and I never lost faith. I never lost my trust in God. And man, I prayed a lot and talked to him a lot, and of course reached out to my buddies and my brothers here in the metro. I mean, there's just a bunch of guys in the place that I used to have there in Hazlitt. Man, there were always, I don't know, 5, 4, 10 vets come out, and I had a range out there.
Right.
And of course, we'd shoot and we'd talk, but it's medicine. It's absolute medicine when you can get around the guys that know, they've been there, they've done that, they smelled it, they tasted it, and for me that was medicine. That's what helped Greg Coker get through those difficult times.
And I thought it was interesting, and I thought it was great. I have 3 daughters of my own. That your daughter was who kind of brought you back into your faith.
Yes, the youngest.
Yeah,
sure was.
With all of this, what is the biggest lesson that you take away from it?
Oh, I have many. I think the biggest one is look inward, and if you need help, seek help. Okay? If you're a veteran, if you're a first responder, and the worst thing you can do is subdue these feelings, it wound up a train wreck. And those that are around you that love you, reach out to them and talk with them. Go seek professional help. I've been seeing a therapist for 12, 13 years. All my buddies, I mean, I'm working with a couple guys right now. Hey, let's get you some professional help. You got to quit drinking. You got to get off the scripts, and been there, done all that. And it adds to your defeat. And of course, keep your faith. God loves you, and he won't let you down, man. And you just can't lose that faith. You can't, absolutely. But the biggest thing is to go talk to someone. And if you're on the upside, call a buddy or go see a buddy. Tell him you love him. You may save his life that day.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the organizations you work with as we're kind of wrapping this up, and what they do for veterans, first responders, people that are going through what you were just mentioning. Can we talk about some of the organizations that you work with, and what they do for first responders, military? Yeah. Because I think that a lot of people, I think if they just knew some of the stuff that you guys do and some of the camaraderie, the hog hunts, the things like that, I think it might bring a lot more people out of their shell. So if we can talk for a minute or two about the different organizations and where they can find them.
Yes, sir. You bet. Great point. There's hundreds of organizations out there that will help you and your families. Veterans Extreme Adventures right there in the metro, VXA, Josh Durden, and Matthew Yates, that crew. They do hunts for vets. They take them fishing. I mean, there's just so many out there. Some of them coming up. Helicopters for Heroes is another big one. We do a helicopter hog hunt down in Ennis, Texas, last 3 days, and I've flown for them doing those. Helicopters for Heroes is one that does helo hog hunts every year in February in Ennis, Texas. There's Young County Warrior Ranch that we have here in Graham, Texas. We do a helo hog hunt in March, and there's just so many good organizations out there. TF Dagger, there's Special Operations Warrior Foundation. I can't name all of them, man. And just reach out to them and contact them And you don't have to go and fly. You don't have to go hunt. I mean, we have guys come to these events. They just hang out. And I can't tell you how many vets have come up to me after a Hilo hog hunt and thanked me and told me, hey, man, you saved my life. That's fact. That's fact.
Yeah, well, it's a powerful thing, and I think when used properly, it can be a big thing in people's life. I know I want to go fly with you.
Yeah.
So I just want to see what you can do in the old bird now.
Yeah.
I want to play one more thing for you, and then we're going to wrap it up here. I want to play the Night Stalker's Creed for you, and then I want you to tell me what it means to you, okay?
The Night Stalker Creed. Service in the 160th is a calling only a few will answer, for the mission is constantly demanding and hard. And when the impossible has been accomplished, the only reward is another mission that no one else would try. As a member of the Night Stalkers, I am a tested volunteer seeking only to safeguard the honor and prestige of my country by serving the elite Special Operations soldiers of the United States. I pledge to maintain my body, mind, and equipment in a constant state of readiness, for I am a member of the fastest deployable task force in the world, ready to move at a moment's notice, anytime, anywhere, arriving time on target, plus or minus 30 seconds. I guard my unit's mission with secrecy, for my only true ally is the night and the element of surprise. My manner is that of the Special Operations quiet professional. Secrecy is a way of life. In battle, I eagerly meet the enemy, for I volunteer to be up front where the fighting is hard. I fear no foe's ability, nor underestimate his will to fight. The mission and my precious cargo are my concern. I will never surrender. I will never leave a fallen comrade to fall into the hands of the enemy, and under no circumstances will I ever embarrass my country. Gallantly will I show the world and the elite forces I support that a Night Stalker is a specially selected and well-trained soldier. I serve with the memory and pride of those who have gone before me, for they love to fight, fought to win, and would rather die than quit. Night Stalkers don't quit.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And it's just not the Night Stalker creed. It's every creed that every Special Operations warrior lives by. And it goes back to the Ranger Creed and all the other units, SF, Delta, whoever. But number one is that you won't fail your comrade. I mean, I don't care how bad it gets. Been there, been with the guys. No matter how bad it gets, you never quit, ever.
Greg, you don't know how much I appreciate you coming on here. This was absolutely fantastic. We're going to go over a couple things. One, if you want to find out more about Greg, you want to find out about his book, or you want to purchase some things from his organization, go to www.deathwaitsinthedark.com. You can pick up the book, and there's a couple different ways you can pick up the book. They have some stuff going right now to where they will not only give you a hardback book, but they'll give you a challenge coin that goes with it. All you have to do is go to deathwaitsinthedark.com. You can pick up hats there. You can pick up the book. You can pick up the challenge coins there. And you can find out a little more about Greg and about George Hand that wrote this book with him. Anywhere else that they can find you that you can tell us about, that's the only one I know is deathwaitsinthedark.com. And then I've just found you you're all over the internet with little stories about you.
Oh, yes, sir. I've got Facebook page, Instagram, Death Waits in the Dark. And I've done, goodness gracious, probably 9 or 10 podcasts are out there. I would like to mention the Warrior's Journey.
Okay.
That's another organization, nonprofit. They actually helped me with printing the book and helped me put this thing together for George and I. Just a great organization. It's a faith-based organization. And, if you ever need anything from them, just contact them. They're awesome folks. But the Kindle version or the e-book is out on Amazon right now. I just finished uploading last week the Audible version of the book that, yes, Kyle Lamb talked me into reading it for that. So don't laugh too hard. I mean, it's a lot of work. It really is. The hardbacks. Yeah.
You should have had him.
Softbacks.
You should have had him read his foreword.
Yeah, I should have. Doggone it.
Yeah, he made you do that. You should have made him read the foreword that he put in there.
Yes, sir. And I just got 2,000 of the softbacks. They'll be up on Amazon. The most important thing is that all my proceeds are donated, 100%. And they're donated to nonprofits that help vets, first responders, and their families. So God's blessed me with a good income, and it was just, that's just what I was supposed to do. So I've donated $12,000 so far in December.
It's amazing.
Book sales. So,
Greg, you are
just blessed.
You are an amazing man. You have been there, done that, seen that. I was so happy that you said you would come on the show. Your book is fantastic. What you do for veterans is fantastic. I'll put the link to all those organizations that you said. I'll put them up on the group page so that you can see them there. And then for a couple of the organizations, I'll tie it in with the podcast and the vodcast. If you want more of us, you can go to Twitter at DoubleSpeakDJ. You can go to Facebook at the DTD Podcast, or you can go on YouTube at the DTD Podcast. Remember, the best stories are true. That's why the DTD Podcast is here. I'm DJ. That's Greg. This has been the show. We'll catch you on the next one. See you guys.